For this project, I'm going to give an old jewellery cabinet this cool steampunk inspired makeover. Keep watching for the full tutorial. The first thing I'm going to do is to dismantle it. This one has a built-in music box which I'll remove first. It doesn't work, but I should be able to fix that. Next I take off the drawer handles. These have small Phillips screws, but many just pull off. I'm making sure I store all the hardware and screws that I remove in a tub with a lid for safekeeping. Next I remove the door and strip all of the components from it, again making sure I safely store everything I take off in the tub. The top-mounted hangers are awkward to remove, but squeezing the ending with a pair of needle-nose pliers helps. And then the mount can be unscrewed. The door handle simply pulls off with the pliers. Two small metal tags is all that holds in the glass. I'm using a razor blade glass scraper to remove the painted flower from the glass. It comes off easy enough. I'll clean up the glass with regular glass cleaner before I reuse it. I've taken the cabinet outside and sprayed all the drawer linings with matte black automotive paint. I did mask off the mirror. Sometimes I like to take the mirrors out, but it can be a difficult process. I'm going to cover the cabinet with paper, but some parts will still show through, so I'm mixing a combination of burnt sienna and burnt umber craft paint. I'm going to paint any parts of the cabinet that won't be covered with the paper. It may take a couple of coats until I'm happy with the results. I'm just measuring up the sides so I can cut some paper to size. I've chosen this antique matte paper as it goes with the steampunk theme. Using a paper trimmer, I roughly cut the paper to size and mark the top of the paper and which side it goes on. The two sides are actually different widths. Next, I'm roughly measuring the top piece, but I'm not cutting it to its final shape and size. Then I measure up the drawer fronts. I'm going to try and keep these in the order that the paper is cut out. I also cut a piece of paper out the same size as the glass. I'm using the glass as a template to cut out a piece of foam board. I'm also cutting out 1.5 cm wide strips. These will be used to make up a shadow box for behind the glass. I'm doing the final trimmings to the papers for the drawer fronts, as these may vary in size a little. Using distressed inks in brush corduroy and vintage photo and a blending tool, I'm just going to age the edges of the papers. I'm making sure that all the cut edges are inked to ensure that no white shows. I like to use Mod Podge to attach the paper, it's perfect for this. Piece by piece, I'm attaching the paper to the cabinet, making sure they're aligned perfectly. Next, to make the shadow box for the door. I'm using the same mix of paint to paint the side strips of the shadow box. When they're dry, I assemble the shadow box using hot glue. It's important not to get too much glue on the pieces, as any glue that shows on the inside of the box will be difficult to remove. I'm going to use a mixture of die cuts from Tim Holtz and various castings in the shadow box assemblage. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to finally use, so I'm painting a selection in black gesso and leaving them to dry thoroughly. The gears and casts are given a light colouring with gilding waxes in gold, bronze and copper. Now for the fun part, the assemblage. The cardboard cogs are adhered with tacky glue, while some of the heavier pieces are stuck in place with hot glue. While that all dries and sets, I turn my attention to trimming the paper on the top of the cabinet. The easiest way to do this is with an emery board. This method takes some time and it's important not to rush the process. The end result is worth the effort. Once the paper is trimmed, the edges are coloured to match the rest of the paper with distress inks. With the shadow box assemblage now dry, I'm using tiny spots of hot glue to hold the glass in place on the door. Making sure that it's the right way up, I glue down the shadow box using hot glue and paint to match the rest of the cabinet. Using a template I made earlier, I locate the holes for the handle screws and pierce the paper using an awl. Then I reattach the handles on the drawers. After repairing the music box mechanism and reattaching it to the back of the cabinet, it's time to reattach the door. I'm giving the edges of the cabinet and drawers, along with the handles, a light covering with gilding wax to help pull it all together. Finally, I've added a few more die-cut cogs to the outside of the box, together with a die-cut compass to go with the vintage map theme. If you've enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe. Thank you for watching.